We've now arrived at week 11 or 12 of lockdown, and in that time we've seen a complete change in the way that we deal with funerals. Some of those changes, I have to say, on reflection, are quite positive, but many of them are negative and difficult for families to understand, and difficult for us as funeral directors, having been used to being very much more involved with families. So now when we make funeral arrangements, they are made remotely by email and telephone. So when the day arrives that we meet with the family, we don't know who is who, we can't embrace them, we can't shake their hands, we can't assist them to their seats. And that, I think, has been, from our point of view, the biggest impact at the actual time of funeral. But step back a bit and think about when the client phones us to tell us that someone has passed away. We go through the normal questions that we would ask any time, and then we have to ask the question about COVID-19. It's a difficult subject for us to broach in a way, because it is indicating that we may have to deal with those deceased in a slightly different manner, and in fact we do. But we find that we've had full cooperation from clients on that question, which is really nice. Because they understand we have to think about the safety of our own staff and the welfare of the people that work here, and also take into consideration other family members of the deceased. So when we've asked the question, we decide whether we need to put in special measures when we go to the place of death, and we know what those measures are, and simply those measures are to try and prevent any aerosol air escaping from the nose and mouth of the deceased, because that's where we are likely to encounter the virus. Really, we are more at danger from the living than the dead, so it is important that we discuss the situation with families, and if they need to self-isolate before the funeral takes place, then that is the way it has to be. Because of the new social distancing regulations, the cemeteries and crematoria are restricting the number of attendees at funerals, and that restriction is variable, dependent upon the authority in ownership at the cemetery or crematorium chapel, or outside by the grave, or to a certain extent the size of the crematorium or chapel that we are holding the service at. In some cases, common sense prevails, and the crematorium has said that providing families sit in family groups, then they can accommodate far more people. Other crematoria are saying rigid numbers, 5, 10, 15, no more. So that's made it quite difficult for families, especially if there's one or two more people that are considered to be close family members. Anyway, we're getting quite used to that, and we can preempt situations. We can arrive at the crematorium chapel knowing how many people to expect, and we are able to configure the seating accordingly so that at least family groups are able to sit together. Unfortunately, we can't supply limousines at the moment. That is because we need to socially distance our drivers, and so we are able to supply electric taxis that have a separate cab, and those are available instead of a limousine.